Hello, my name is Naomi Walsh and I'm a member of the ACEN board and the Engagement and Advocacy Committee. I'm here today to do a Q&A with Faith Valencia-Forrester. Faith is the academic lead work integrated learning at Charles Sturt University, and she's also the ACEN company secretary with a long history of contributions to the committees and board of ACEN. So welcome, Faith.
Hi,
I'll just
Naomi.
start. Hi, I was just start by asking about what is your role and experience in Will?
So I first started engaging with Will when I started teaching in 2010. I come from an industry background, and I guess that just naturally lent itself to a practical way of teaching journalism education. And pretty much I didn't even realize I was doing Will when I first started. But obviously, the more I engage, the more I realize that, this is work integrated learning. And I've loved it ever since.
Right, and you've had a number of roles on the ACEN board over time. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience with the ACEN organisation is and what your contributions have been?
So I first I found out about ACEN when I went to a waste conference, actually, and I joined the Queensland chapter. And I remember there was 3 of us that would attend meetings. So I'm really pleased to see that our Queensland chapter has grown exponentially since then. So I originally was a chapter member, and then I was a board member for several years. Then I stepped back and Karen Robinson took on the chapter director for the ACEN board for Queensland. And since then I've been chapter chair, but I've also volunteered on a number of committees, pretty much all of them, I think, in some way or another. From the research committee, I'm on the advocacy committee with you, finance, audit and risk research. I pretty much try and be as involved as I can, basically because I love the people and I enjoy it.
Yeah, and we're very grateful to have you in the role of company secretary, which is a really important role for ACEN, which oversees some of our governance requirements, but also in the lead up to board member elections and making sure all of those processes, all the rules are adhered to. So we're grateful for that. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've seen in the world of Will and how the landscape of Will has evolved in recent years, and what do you think the emerging trends that you see shaping the future?
Well, it's interesting, Naomi, because when I first started, Will was very much an outlier in the academic community. I think the general consensus was don't do Will because of the workload, which is absolutely true. But what's been great is to see how far Will has come in terms of it, whether people consider it a discipline or not, but it's very much at the forefront of an academic curriculum now. Universities are talking about work integrated learning, governments are talking about work integrated learning, and it's starting to become a core component of tertiary education. And it's definitely something that students look forward to. And I've always said students knew about Will experience way before the vice chancellors and upper echelons of universities did. So I guess it's moved more to the centre, where before it was an outlier, which I think it should be.
Yeah, and what do you see in the space of bridging the gap between academia and industry that can be an interesting space to work in your area of discipline?
Well, I see it as an integrated relationship. From an industry perspective, our industry partners want to make sure that our graduates are ready to hit the ground running. They have experience, they know what it's like to work in the workplace. And from an academic perspective, I think we should really be ahead of what's happening in industry, if not working alongside. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to work closely with our industry partners as we grow and develop the next generation of leaders, workers, innovators.
Yeah, great space to work. Is there anything that you can share from your experience that you would count as a success story or a case study that highlights the benefits to students and employers or industry partners?
Oh, as difficult as COVID was, I think it really changed the Will landscape for employers, for academics, for students. So in 2020, I was piloting a virtual Will social impact project for 50 students. I was focused on how do I put the experience into the online experience. And COVID hit, so instead of having 50 students, next minute I had 650. So that was a great way to test virtual will, to test scalability, to test agility and innovation. I'm pleased to say that all accounts the students loved it. Our partners loved it. It was a great way to remove the barriers for our partners to engage in will. So we had 89 partners, 650 students working across 5 social impact projects, and we really came up with some great outcomes. So I think that's really a highlight. And now that I've moved more to an administrative role, I kind of miss having that hands-on element with will. You know, I feel like I need to get my hands back on the tools, because admin, you're not really at the coalface coming up with ideas and helping students grow into their careers. So I might get back to that down the track.
Yeah, and I think as challenging as that being at the face of students and industry, it's certainly a very rewarding space to work as well. So
Well, I think it's a passionate educators that step into will. If you're more of a research academic and you want to sit behind a book, it's the academics and the academics that love their students and love putting that extra mile in, I think, that thrive in the will environment.
Right. And last question, how can you see that will can be leveraged to address some of the challenges we have, you know, diversity, inclusion, also to fill some of those gaps from an employment perspective, some of those jobs and skills area? What's the role of will going forward in to address those areas?
Well, I think universities can be the leaders in this space, because you know, in designing will experiences for our students, if you're designing for those students that come from diverse backgrounds and intersections, then I think you set the standard for when they go out into their careers, because that's their expectation, that we accommodate and include a variety of experiences and a variety of backgrounds. And I think students will then take that into the workforce. So I think that that's really where we're setting up the future workforce structures around inclusion, diversity, and equity as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Faith, for having a chat to me about your experience in will. No doubt in the coming months that people listening might be interested in joining ACEN in sharing some of those experiences in will, and hopefully will put up their hands to be part of our committees, our chapters, and potentially our board. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Naomi.